Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. In this show, I will introduce you to ideas, concepts, and mindsets that will open your mind to a new world of well-being and personal life growth. Through eye-opening interviews, we elevate people in the world doing amazing things for humanity and share insights that will shift you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate version of you. Hello and welcome back to Things You Can't Unhear. My name is Maritza Barone and this is a brand new episode. After the last few weeks, we've shared some of our most downloaded episodes, so I hope you have enjoyed them. I certainly have really enjoyed revisiting all of those incredible conversations. So you can always go back and filter through whenever you see something that pops up that sparks your interest. Wherever you are in the world, I hope amongst all the shifts and changes that you are doing well. Today, our guest is Dr. Sarah Jane Perri, and it's someone I've wanted to have on the show for a while. And in my eyes, she is a real life magician. I've seen her in her practice as a network spinal chiropractor and energy worker. And even without touching her clients, she helps to heal and balance us. And it's truly amazing. She does this from her gorgeous clinic called Enlighten in Melbourne, Victoria. Sarah and I also recently co-authored a book together with 18 other authors called This I Know Is True, where awakened women from around the globe contributed a chapter that talks to what they believe to be true from their life lessons. It was a beautiful experience being part of that and collaborating in that book. And in this chat, we delve into Sarah's journey from her chapter of grief, loss, acceptance, and change. I hope you enjoy our chat. Hello, Dr. Sarah Jane. Thank you so much for being here on Things You Can't Unhear.
Thank you so much for having me. I know I've been pestering you for a while to get me on the show, so I'm really excited to be here. Actually,
I'm excited you're here too. You're one of those people that has just come in and out of my awareness for a very long time, and the last 6 months especially, your name has just popped up 100 times. And when that happens, I always need to speak to people because there's obviously a reason why we should talk and why we should meet and why we need to, share what you're doing, because since then I've come into your work world and experienced what you do firsthand. So it's going to be a great conversation to learn more about what you do and how you can help people and like really who you are. I suppose we'll start today. I'll check in with you. How are you doing today? How are you going with life right now?
Yeah, look, I'm very fortunate. Life hasn't changed too much for me in terms of negative ways. The last couple of years, I've been able to work, which I'm very thankful for, being an essential worker, being in the health field. And yeah, we've actually grown during this time as a practice. So for me, it's been a privilege to be able to assist people during this time when they aren't able to have access to other services or therapies. So yeah, I've been really, really fortunate. Of course, everyone gets touched in some way, but for me, there's been a lot more good to focus on, and that's just kind of my nature, is to focus on those things that I can control and the things I can do that fill me up, and that is helping people. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on.
Well, let's talk about your work a little bit and what you do, because you've got, what do you even call it? What do you call your clinic or your space that you have?
So we call it Enlighten, and the reason we call it that is it's a place where people can go. It's a little bit of a healing sanctuary in bustling Melbourne, where you can go and kind of feel connected to other people who are like-minded to yourself, and to other spiritual practices and energetic practices such as kinesiology, Reiki, holistic physiotherapy, tapping, trauma release, breath work. We've got a whole bunch of different modalities at the clinic, but primarily what I do is network spinal / my own form of energetic work with people. And so that is a little bit different. It's more along the lines of light touch chiropractic, which I guess works more on a somatic level and an emotional level, as well as a I guess, a neurological level for people as well. So we're kind of focusing more on retraining the nervous system and I guess neuroplasticity in regards to how the brain I guess functions with trauma, functions with sympathetic dominance, which means you are in a fight or flight state, and how to bring you into more of a calming and restful state, which is more related to the parasympathetic nervous system. So we do that through these gentle light touches, working with your energetic field, which then communicate to your brain and spine to release tension, which predominantly is either emotional, physical stress tension. And through that, you will move innately within the body, which is working with the innate intelligence within the system. And through that movement, you release all those things that no longer serve you anymore.
All right. So I'll explain to everyone what my experience was like in just so everyone can understand, sort of from a space where it's all very new to them, for people who haven't heard of this lingo before. So literally ringing the doorbell at Enlighten, you walk in and you automatically feel like you're in a safe, beautiful space. It's so aesthetically pleasing, but not only is it that, the people in there are so energetically in tune. Well, they were with me, energetically in tune with me. I felt relaxed instantly. There were books scattered around the place that really aligned with my level of thinking. There were beautiful tarot cards. There was a gorgeous dog walking around. Everyone was barefoot. It was just such a beautiful space. And it was the first time that I'd actually come in there and also experienced the network spiral chiropractic service that you offer. And it was the first time that I'd had that. And we'd obviously gone through the first session, which is the longest session with yourself. And I just felt I experienced a sense of release in my body and in my mind, because I'm very much in my mind type of person. And I wasn't expecting that, because I'm used to the normal chiropractic type of treatments where you have your adjustments and off you go. And this was completely different. It was all about the energy and watching you in action, with moving your hands, and you're like a magical wizard who's just pulling the energy through the room. And, you know, the first time that I saw this method being done on anyone, it was on Goop, the Gwyneth Paltrow Netflix series. So can you explain sort of on a deeper level for people who perhaps have never heard of this before or will not understand it so much just with the normal terminology, how it works to heal certain emotional blockages and even physical pain in the body?
For most people, when they think of network spinal chiropractic, what they don't understand necessarily is what the movements they're doing and how we're creating those movements. So if we think of it from more of a base level, the mind and body are one. So in Western society, we still see them as separate, which they're not. Okay, so whatever occurs in the mind occurs in the physical body, and vice versa. Whatever occurs in the physical body, there's going to be a mental processing aspect to that. And I always tell everyone to read this book called The Body Keeps the Score. It's a really beautiful way of looking at how we have this fingerprint in our physical being about what we've gone through in our life. So the more emotional charge that something has that we've experienced in our life, the more likely it is to store in our system. And especially if we repress something or suppress something, we have to think about where that goes. So if we don't express it, where do we think it goes? And the answer is it goes back into the nervous system. Okay, so that's what we're working with. That's what we're releasing. And in terms of energy, I suppose most of us in Western society don't really understand that we are energy and we can work with energy in a way that I guess is a little bit more tangible to what we're used to. So it's not that woo-woo idea of energy where we kind of wave our hands and you may or may not feel something. You definitely have a tangible experience with network spinal and the energies that we're working with. You can feel it, you can sense that your breath is different, you can feel the movements. So it's something that's a really beautiful experience and something that all human beings know how to do. All that we are doing as a practitioner is facilitating for the body to remember how to do that. So if you look in the wild, dogs tigers, whatever, any other kind of animal, if they come up to something that's endangering them, they will shake off. They will have a shake it off response, which is something physically moving in their body, and then they let it go and they move on in their life. This is kind of an idea of that. We're getting the body to engage in movement to release something that it no longer needs, so that you can move forward and no longer hold yourself back from things that you have experienced in your past.
It's definitely something that's very effective in the way that it worked, because the 2 sessions that I've now had, I've had one with you one-on-one, and then I've also had a group session where there's 4 people in the room, and the energy, the collective energy sort of worked within the group. So it's that was a huge release after that one as well. And it's definitely something that's quite quick in the way that it affects you and helps you, which is great, because I'm not one of those people who likes to go to 55 sessions before I see any response to something. And
I don't know anyone who likes that.
No, it becomes very expensive and time consuming. So the release was pretty much instantaneous, and I got the advice to go out and ground afterwards. So took the shoes off, put my feet in the grass, and my whole day was completely different from that. I had a whole different perspective on how I was seeing things, and there was definitely a cleansing feeling to what I was going through. But as a healer, so you do tend to, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of healers on this show and just in general life. How did you get into this work? There's usually a catalyst or a story as to what led you to help people heal in this way. And I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, well, in terms of me as a person, what my purpose was, I knew it always was to help people, but how that looked was always a bit of a challenge for me. I didn't know which area I wanted to go in. I first studied psychology and philosophy. I was really interested in Eastern philosophies, so world religions. I traveled all over Southeast Asia, looking at Buddhism and Hinduism specifically. I loved psychology because I loved learning about human beings and how our brains and minds work and why we are the way that we are. But I found it quite boxy. So it was quite, you had to fit a criteria and that equaled this. And then it was quite limiting in terms of how you could assess and treat people, I suppose. So after finishing my first degree, I decided to go into holistic counselling and transpersonal psychology instead, which incorporates more of the spiritual components. So it provides context in terms of a human being and their spiritual journey in life, and not just that something's wrong with them and we need to fix it. We look at other reasons why certain things might be happening for people, such as anxiety or whatever it might be. So I started working in that area, as well as I come from a really creative family. My brother's an artist. My sister was a photographer at the time. And so I was in fashion. I still do love fashion. And I was a fashion buyer. And I remember just sitting there one day at work going, I'm just looking for something a little bit more meaningful. Like I just wanted something, some more substance, something. And so I went on to Seek on my lunch break and typed in the keyword meaningful into the little search bar. So not a huge special story, but the only job that came up was for a network chiropractor. Had no idea what network chiro was, but applied for it because I thought, well, it's the only job in Victoria that has this keyword, so it must be for me. And got the job and just fell immensely in love with network chiro after that. Similar to how you described my place. When I walked into this place, it was the first time I felt like what was within me was reflected externally somewhere. So they also had books that I loved, music that I loved to listen to. People in there were just happy and healthy. And the change was far more than just people in pain and people, being sad or depressed and things being wrong with them. And it was more than just a business machine. It was authentic caring and healing for people on so many different levels. And that for me is something that stood out. And so I just went back and studied chiropractic after that. In terms of chiro here, you have to learn manual chiropractic, which is the traditional chiro with adjusting. So I did applied science and clinical science with distinction at RMIT, and then did further training to pursue network after that. It's a whole different ball game in terms of what you've learned at university, as it's very, very different. You're using different, energetic anatomy. You're using different ways of releasing, as opposed to a manual adjustment or manipulation or cracking. We don't do any of that. And a lot of the time we are barely touching you, or if we are touching you, it's quite light, or we're off into your field majority of the time as well. So it's very, very different art form, but still incorporates the science, the philosophy and art of chiropractic as a whole. But we are working in a different way. So a different journey to a similar destination, I suppose.
Yeah, I love that. And I really love that you typed in meaningful work into Google, and this is what came up. See, Google can be very beneficial for us sometimes.
I know. I felt like I need to say like I went and camped in the Himalayas and had an epiphany, but I didn't. It was literally seek. So, but I do trust in myself in terms of feeling those nudges to pursue things and just go, okay, well, that wouldn't have come up for a reason. Just like you were saying, exactly. You wouldn't have heard my name for a while and you were like, oh, that's synchronicity. So the idea of following that, it was just, yeah. And then I found it and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And I don't know if I'll do it forever, but definitely for now. And for the last, 10 years, it's been something that's a huge passion of mine and where I'm meant to be.
Definitely a place to check out Enlighten if anyone is feeling like they need a release, if there's emotional blockages, if you've got blocked trauma, or there's grief, anger or sadness, anxiety. That's something that it's helped me on a personal level. So yeah, if it's something that you want to check out and delve more into, everyone, just head to Sarah's website. It's DrSarahJanePerri.com, and we'll put that in the show notes. But we're going to just move on to a different topic soon, because there was another reason why I engage with you and how I came across you again, because firstly, it was, what we've just talked about. But then secondly, we've just co-authored a book together. It's called This I Know Is True. And there's 18 authors who have contributed to the book, and you are one of them. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through reading the rest of the book at the moment. Your chapter is towards the end of the book, so I skipped straight to the end of the book and read your chapter, and it is so beautiful. I really went through a roller coaster of emotions when I read your chapter. Can you tell us a little bit about it? It's called The Wound of Love.
Yeah, it is called The Wound of Love. For me, it's just, I guess, it's part of my healing journey was writing that chapter. It was very cathartic for me. And basically, I just sat down and just wrote whatever came out. And it's in regards to my mum falling suddenly ill with a very rare brain disease called ADEM, or acute demyelination encephalomyelitis, as well as at the same time undergoing my 4th miscarriage while she was in her coma, and talking about my own journey and the polarity between losing my mum and the idea of becoming a mother at the same time, and refinding beauty and happiness in life after being wounded in such a difficult way through grief, but also in a privileged way through loving something enough to experience grief on that deep level. So I've gone through quite an extensive tapestry in life, but that was the thing I wanted to focus on for this chapter. And I just let it flow out. So my style of writing is a little bit different to, I guess, most. It is a bit choppy and changey, and you can see that as it literally was just poured out from my heart and mind and into the keyboard. So yeah, that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion that's gone into it, and that's how it worked for me when I wrote my chapter as well. I thought it was going to really be a time-consuming practice getting these words out, but you're right, it just fell onto the page, and you felt so great after getting it out and verbalizing what was in there, and then it actually gives you a lot of clarity into how you've been feeling and what led up to these moments. But going through what you have, I mean, you skipped past sort of that trauma that you've been through quite quickly just then. And it's something that I think we can unpack, if you're willing to, today a little bit, in terms of helping other people who are perhaps going through similar situations, and what you learnt on this journey of healing yourself. I think we all somewhere need, no matter how smooth our lives have run, there is definitely an element of healing in there for all of us to do. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. That's what we've signed up for as being a human being. There's different I guess, ways that we come across, different challenges in our lives. We all have different ones, but ultimately, if you look into Joseph Campbell's work, we are going through what we call a hero's journey, and we all have things that are challenging and break us down and break our beliefs down, and what we thought the world was, what we thought we were, what we thought people were, what we thought it all meant, get turned to fragments, and then we have to rebuild. And so that chapter is really about myself rebuilding. And really, when I even talk about the grief, grieving myself as well, grieving who I was before that time, someone who wasn't necessarily naive, but was naive to what I was going through at that point in time. And it was definitely a very, very heartbreaking couple of years in my life, to lose 5 pregnancies in a row, and then in the end be told that you could only pursue surrogacy, and then in the end not do that. So having to come to the idea of not having children at all, and what that meant as a woman, what that meant as a woman in Western society, in terms of worth, in terms of who I was as the person, in terms of my marriage, in terms of my finances, in terms of my friendships, in terms of everything that I understood my life to be and what I thought it would be. And my mum and I were very, very, very close. So for me, that was a very challenging time to lose her. She is still alive now, but she is brain damaged. So she's got predominantly brain damage in her frontal lobe. So she's got the mindset of around a 6-year-old currently. So I still have her, but it's a different version of her. So there was a huge amount of grief in I guess, losing the person she was when I wasn't ready to lose her, and also so suddenly. And I guess, it changed who I am as a person and forever, basically.
Yeah, they call it the dark night of the soul, hey, when those things come crashing down and life changes forever, and the way that you've perceived your life and your future. So, your forecast future completely changes right before your eyes.
Yeah, everything I thought was altered. It was almost like everything went upside down instantly.
What was helpful for you in that time period of years that it was the dark, that heaviness and that darkness that you experienced mostly? What was the most beneficial practices or healing methods, or anything that you did that really helped you along the way to ease the pain that you were going through?
I found a support network, so like-minded people who have gone through similar things. So what happened to us was like a 1 in 100 thing. And it's not very common to have 5 miscarriages in a row. So I really went and found other people who were going through all different types of infertility, however you may want to look at it. And I made some really beautiful friends. It can be a really beautiful community in terms of support, and that's a whole nother world in itself, IVF and infertility. So you really do need to find some people that can help you during that time. And for me, it was important to find a group through, community boards or Instagram. I've reached out. I've got some great friends from there that I connected to, rather than, I guess, my friends previously who weren't on that same journey as me. It was hard for them to support me in a way, and it was hard for me to receive support from them, because I was like, you don't know what I'm going through, So I surrounded myself with some like-minded people. I also made sure I was doing psychotherapy. I was doing EMDR, which is a rapid eye movement trauma releasing work done by a psychologist to help me with my triggers at that point in time and process the trauma. I was still getting network Chiro every week, which has helped me immensely in terms of integrating this process. I have, what else have I done? Acupuncture. I had naturopaths, I had Chinese medicine doctors. I had everyone. And then even in the book, when I wrote that chapter, I'd just gotten home from a Vipassana, which is a 12-day silent meditation course up in Hillsville, Woorayallock. So meditation and yoga were a huge part as well. And, I even did a Tony Robbins seminar, and I know that sounds a bit corny, but I swear that changed the way I looked at things after I did that. He really changed my belief systems around feeling like a failure as a human, as a woman. And after doing that seminar, I just didn't believe that anymore. So he was working with kind of an NLP way of things. So I guess for me, support, and also I guess, openness to try different things and to want to heal and to want to feel better, and to also know that things change. And I really, like, even through these last couple of years in the pandemic, I really can sit strongly in things outside of my control now and know that they will alter. So I think it was such a great lesson to learn prior to the last few years. But I also know that I can be, reduced to this, like not knowing anything about the world anymore, and rebuild and be okay. And that resilience and that strength and that courage will stay with me for the rest of my life. I know there's nothing that I can't get through anymore. Like, I know I can get through anything.
Do you think that's about attachment? I'm trying to figure out what the secret to happiness is. And, a lot of people who like Buddhism and people who have really studied, hacking happiness, talk about attachment being a thing. And, we're attached to this idea of who we are. We're attached to where we want to live. We're attached to what job we want to have. We're attached to what we want to look like, et cetera, et cetera. I think when we let go of that, I mean, is that where you're getting at?
Yeah, like even in the chapter, I think I touch a bit on attachment and Buddhist philosophy. I just finished my postgraduate in humanistic Buddhism. And the reason I did that was to, again, reopen the Buddhist way of happiness, because in my life, in my experience, the happiest people I knew from around the world and in Australia were Buddhists. So I was like, okay, what do they have that I can have? And attachment's a huge thing. And like we were discussing, the things that were challenging was the attachments to how I wanted my future to look, attachments to what I believed was fair and who it should happen to and how it shouldn't happen to me, attachments to how I think things should work out, attachments to who I was and who I thought I was, attachments to my beliefs, attachments to my mum, and attachments are normal to a degree, especially when you do love someone, but it can only hurt if you really believe that this is all there is in life as well, that the physical being is all there is. If you can understand that there's more to life than that, then you can also understand that that person is always with you no matter what, in a different way, in a different form. And yes, there's grief attached to that, but there's also this inner knowing that I can't explain, that I can just feel her with me at all times anyway. So it's a progression from, I guess, sometimes accepting that you're attached and being aware of it, but not allowing it to, I guess, consume you as well.
Definitely very difficult as a human being to let go of all attachment. It's just not in our DNA, is it? It's just not in our upbringing, and it's not in the way that we've been taught to live. And obviously when you love somebody so dearly, how can you not have that attachment to them and the emotion behind it?
And so for me, there was a lot of acceptance as well, and compassion, which is also something that Buddhists speak a lot about: compassion, kindness, empathy, and having that towards myself too, and being okay that I was grieving and giving myself time for that, but also choosing not to stay in that place forever.
Yeah. There's a woman that I interviewed, Yemi Penn. She talks about trauma, and she created a documentary called Did I Choose My Trauma? Which is a very controversial topic, obviously, for people who've gone through pain. But you touched on before that this is not the only part of life. There's so much more to what happens outside this realm, and whether we choose these traumatic experiences to, on a subconscious level, to teach us certain things in life. What's your take on that?
I do believe personally that there's some aspect of that. What I don't know for sure is that, but I do know from my personal opinion and my personal experience that even with my mum, there was some kind of, I don't know if karma is the right word, but karmic teaching to that. And everything that I've gone through, I find more peace in believing that it happened as it should, or it would have happened differently. Now, do I know 100% that that's true? No, but I do know for me, in terms of my belief system, that having faith in that and having faith in something higher than myself, in higher, in terms of universe, God, whatever you believe in, made those things easier.
Yeah, totally.
And that was more my alignment with it. And, it just makes it, it takes you out of that why me phase quicker.
Yes.
And sitting in that, because why not you? Why does it always have to be someone else that goes through these hard times and these painful experiences? And to be honest, my whole life's been a very interesting event after event after event. So in terms of what I do for my work, I almost use it to my advantage now and part of my skill set, because I have so many different things that I can empathize with, and from an actual level of understanding, not just an experience and not just an idea of, oh, maybe this person feels this way. So I believe it's helped me a lot in my work, and that whole idea of the wounded healer to a degree. But I guess everyone has their own belief systems, and that's why it's controversial. But also, if we challenge the idea of the story that we have, it can be very hard for most people. So that's probably why that idea is challenging. Why would I choose that? I wouldn't choose this. But yeah, and then you've got the other aspect where there's too much responsibility given to people who have gone through really traumatizing things as well. And sometimes that's traumatizing. So you just have to find whatever works for you personally.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of hard times people have been through. You talk about your belief system, and you've actually studied different religions and spirituality. Can you share your overall belief system with us?
Yeah, it's
intriguing. It's intriguing.
It's funny because I've basically taken everything that I like from each religion.
Yeah, that's what I've done too. Yeah.
So, you just, like, even if you look at Christianity, for example, and I'm not Christian or Catholic for that matter, but the values in terms of, the 10 Commandments, they're all basically, no matter what religion you look at, they're how to be a really good, kind human being and treat other people with kindness. And that, for me, no matter what religion you look at, that's what it comes down to. But I just always tried to step away from the dogmatic views, or like, if you don't do this, you're not welcome. That kind of thing doesn't sit well with me in terms of spirituality. And I'm much more of a spiritual being than a religious being. But like we were discussing before, in terms of Buddhism and Hinduism, when I went to India and when I went to Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, in all those countries where they have that strong happiness and strong belief in spiritual growth and well-being, that's what inspired me, and that's why I kind of blend Eastern and Western philosophies together.
Yeah. Were you raised with a spiritual background?
Not really. My family's an interesting one. I'm not really sure where it comes from. But my brother's quite spiritual and my sister's quite alternative as well. So we weren't specifically raised that way, but we were raised to be ourselves. And so maybe that's what drew us into that. But my mum did buy me, The Power of Now when I was like 14, and always put Oprah on and things like that. And I remember when I was like 16, she gave me the 5 love languages as a book. And I was like, oh, Mum, what's this? Like, I'm not interested in this, So I'd say my mum definitely had an aspect of it. And she always had an interest in Buddhism as well, actually. So yeah, she probably influenced me that way. But she loved us for who we were and wanted us to be ourselves, and that's probably the best gift she ever gave us.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It actually makes me happy. I leave those books lying around for my kids, or my 12-year-old more so than my 9-year-old, but it's like gentle introduction. If you want to pick it up, you can pick it up, and if they're ready and if they ever want to, it's there for them. So it's really,
I think it's so important, because you look back on those things and you just, you will read it. What's the saying? The teacher will appear when the student's ready. And
exactly right.
But you never know how you can influence people, and books are a special way to do that. So I love that idea for your kids. They're very lucky. I think kids of today are so lucky. Like I see so many children in my clinic doing network, and I'm like, I was 23 when I experienced this for the first time, and these guys are like 3. But imagine that, learning these skills from such a young age, like, totally. And it's just so beneficial,
especially going through adolescence and puberty and all of those changes and hormones that so many young people are going through, and learning to know themselves on a different level. These tools can be incredible for them.
And it doesn't discriminate. We see people from all different ages, from young to old, and as long as you're living, you've got things to work through. The work never ends, as we know. And but like you said, it's a great tool to have in your kit in terms of processing and integrating, and kind of leaving that state of reaction and bringing in awareness and changing a different state in your being, which is such an important lesson, and things that should be taught at school, really, because it's about how to get through life, and not just get through it, but enjoy it and be happy in it and content in it and love it. So, you know, all the other things are important too, but yeah, there needs to be a life school aspect that's kind of incorporated too, I think.
There's a few schools popping up around the traps these days that have completely flipped the way traditional schools operate. And I'm really hoping that they filter through society more and more so.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful the way that they're just changing the narrative on what we're used to with curriculums and teaching of our kids. But anyway, I want to hand the mic to you, so to speak. Say you had the whole world listening and you had a message out there to give. What would your words be? What impact would you want to leave on them?
I think for me, in terms of why I do what I do, the impact is to bring everyone back to themselves and who they were before they were told who they should be. So for me, the biggest gift I can give anyone is to facilitate them to be able to connect to their true self and live a life that's according to their soul blueprint, and be happy and content, and live authentically and genuinely, and be kind and good people. And that's all we can do.
I love that. Figure out who you are before you were told who to be.
Yeah. Because a lot of us don't actually know.
No.
On a deep level, you know, so it's almost like remembering who we are is the first process of the work that we do. And then, oh, hang on. And it can be a bit of a wake-up call, because you're like, oh, I chose this career because I thought I liked this, but no, that was actually my mum or dad that liked that and liked me when I did that. So there's a lot of breaking things down. But yeah, just I really think if we can tap into who we are, we can be content and peaceful. And that's what really happiness is, not just all this external world stuff like, oh, once I get this, once I do that, you know, it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately, which is why most of us in the Western realm are unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've just been granted newfound freedom here in Melbourne, Victoria, where we're both from. Well, what's ahead for you now that we are free to leave our homes and go into the world? I mean, in terms of work related, I did see on your website you've got an energetic coding course coming up, and you know, I'm at the moment I'm looking for different things to do and getting out there and actually being in front of people, because I'm sick of doing things online, and I'd love to reconnect with like-minded people and do different courses or retreats or programs or events or whatever it is. That's true.
So I do agree on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. So, I mean,
mine got cancelled last year. So I've got, I think, 2 retreats that I'm still paid for that should be coming up. And yeah, I'm writing my course, but we're actually having a spiritual dating night coming up as well that we're organizing for single people to meet like-minded individuals.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, because so many of my clients are single, and they find it hard to find someone with similar values to them, or you know, on this kind of path as well. So we're going to have that, and then we're doing a clear day next year, which is when we have, you know, a huge amount of people and network sessions throughout the day with breathwork and live music. That's an incredible day, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to being able to connect with the community in real life again, I suppose.
Yeah, same. I know you have your clients coming in, but people together in a group setting makes a huge difference, and the energy you get from that is gorgeous. So where can people find out?
So Instagram's probably my best thing, where I post most of my things quickly. So it is Enlightened by Dr Sarah Jane Chiro. There's a whole bunch of underscores, but I'll get you to pop that in.
Gosh, pop it in.
Yeah, but if you just type in Dr Sarah Jane Chiro, I should come up. And Facebook, it automatically gets shared too. And then my Instagram, we always post things up on that too, and my website. So just stay tuned and we'll see what happens. But I'm just looking forward to people feeling like connected again, and just being able to like be in each other's energy field and space and just feel someone, you know.
Counting down the minutes for that. Thank you so much, Sarah, for enlightening us today with everything that you do. And as we mentioned, Sarah's website is drsarahjanechiro.com. So stay up to date with what she's doing, and stay well, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Let us know what you thought of this episode, and if something really profound came up for you that you want to share, let's talk about it. You can find me on Instagram at Things You Can't Unhear or on my personal page at Maritza_Barone. And if someone you know will benefit from something that was said in this show, make sure you share it with them too. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and keep up to date with what's next. And if you can spare a few seconds, please rate and review the show on iTunes, just so other people can find us more easily and quickly. And as always, my friends, be happy, be healthy, be conscious, and be kind.